my name is Jim and I was retired. I'm going to give you a quick update on my plan for I bonds this year. Don't buy I bonds in 2023. Stay tuned. I know, just last week I had a video on how to redeem an I bond with my plan to replace that I bond with a new one in April 2023 with a fixed rate of 0.4%, one that would earn 6.89% for the first 6 months. Well, now I've finished some analysis as I was trying to decide whether to buy in April or wait till May to see if a new fixed rate might be increased enough to make a difference. The short answer is it won't. If you were set on buying an I bond in 2023, do it in April. So here's the secret. On May 1st, Treasury Direct will issue the new composite rate for I bonds. It will include a new fixed rate. It'll either be the same 0.4 or slightly higher than that. That'll stay the same for the 30 years of the savings bond. And they'll announce the inflation factor, the one that changes every 6 months. And if you purchase an I bond before the end of April, you're going to earn that 6.89% for the first 6 months, including its current fixed rate of 0.4%. April 12 or so, we're going to get that sixth reading of inflation in the Consumer Price Index for urban workers, and we'll be able to calculate the inflation factor for the next 6 months. Now, I built this spreadsheet that I'll show you here on what it might be. And as you recall, I've been estimating it could be anywhere from 3.13% to 3.87%, depending upon where that final reading is. So I decided I'm going to plug in the Cleveland Fed's nowcast for the March CPI month-to-month reading here at 0.3. Now that would give us an inflation factor for the 6 months of 1.65%. And with the current fixed rate of 0.4, say that stayed the same, then you're looking at a composite rate of 3.71%. Now we'll know for sure on April 12 what that reading really is, but I'm doing a little pre-planning and estimating on what it might be. But the fixed rate won't be known until May 1st. So I'm building some case examples here in this spreadsheet. So let me show you the scenarios that I've built out here for buying in April or buying in May. I'll go to this spreadsheet that I've used before for I bonds, and I'll come over here. So let's begin with the scenario of buying in April, an initial bond with an initial rate of 6.89%, and that includes the inflation factor and the 0.4% fixed rate. And you'll have that for the first 6 months. And then I'm going to plug in my estimate of what that inflation factor might be for the next 6 months. And that yields, with the same fixed rate, that'll yield a rate of 3.71 for its second 6-month period. Then after that, the rate that's going to be set in November of 2023, who knows? So instead, I'm going to put in the average. I took this data, which I've shared before, and I've just updated it here, but it's the fixed rates and the inflation factors for all the I bonds, and I got this information from the Treasury Direct website. And down here, I created some footer rows to give us averages for the 10-year and over the life of I bonds. And as you'll see, I've been using this 1.23 as the average inflation factor for I bonds since they began. Now, I'll show you in a minute, I'm not estimating that or thinking that we're going to get to this average fixed rate of 0.89, but it really wouldn't matter much. So coming back here, I'm using that inflation factor, which would yield a composite rate of 2.86 for an April bond. And you come down here to the 16 months, which I say is the minimum holding period for an I bond to ensure that you're capturing all of the interest that you really are due. And as you can see here, it would have earned $159 in cumulative interest over those 16 months. And buying in April, as we'll see here in a minute when I compare, will have earned about 42% more than if you bought in May. Let's jump over to that page. And here's the scenario for May. I'm assuming the same principal amount with a fixed rate of 0.5, a modest increase. Let's give it a modest increase. The same inflation factors for that in the estimates. In May, you're going to start with that May rate, and then I'm going to use the averages for the next few months. Same 16 months, you're only earning $112 in interest. That's substantially less. So let's see what happens if you go up to the 0.89% of the average. So $125, that means you're still about 27% ahead if you buy in April over those two comparisons for the 16-month periods. But what happens if you go all the way out? Let's say 5 years. Can you catch up? Well, I did. I ran these numbers all the way down here and say the fixed rate 0.89 and you'll have earned a cumulative interest of 532 in this scenario compared to April 515. So it would need to be higher than 0.89 for you to barely eke out more interest waiting to May versus April. So then I took these line charts here to show that, look, barely eking out after 5 years with a slightly better return for waiting for May than April. But if we go back to May and change this back to a more reasonable estimate of 0.5%, modest increase in the fixed rate, right? Same columns. Look at the chart now. The April bond, if there's only a modest increase in the fixed rate, the April bond will clearly be ahead of the game even after 5 years. So that really tells me that the fixed rate and waiting for it is not going to make a difference here. I should add here, when you look at all of those historical rates and the initial composite rates, that the last 3 initial composite rates have been the first, third, and fifth highest in I-bond history. And if my estimates are right for the next rate, if you wait to May, your initial composite rate will likely fall to about 22 out of 30, falling back to May of 2021 levels. So if you're going to buy an I-bond in 2023, and again, it's going to be a modest return compared to what we've seen, buy it in April. When I finished this analysis, I realized that the modest bump in the fixed rate from the 0.3% for the existing 2010 bonds to 0.4 for one purchased in April, or perhaps 0.5 or even 0.89 in May would make little difference in my retirement plans here. So I've decided not to replace the February bond with one in April, and I will not replace the April 2010 I-bond either. I'll just let it go ahead and earn its current interest and redeem it later this year when it stops earning its current high rate. Now, I should have done this analysis before I redeemed in February, but then I wouldn't have had that tutorial on how to redeem an I bond last week. And it was good practice for when I redeemed the I bonds that we purchased, my wife and I, as both our amounts and a gift bonds in 2021 and 2022. And because I'm not replacing those 2010 bonds with new bonds with just a slightly higher fixed rate, that means I can receive all of the gifts from Marie and redeem them this year. So that simplifies my strategy for I bonds this year. Don't buy, just redeem. Hey, please like and subscribe to this channel if you like entertaining ideas from a DIY retiree. And add a comment below about your I bond strategy for 2023. I'll conclude with my standard warning. I am not a financial planner. I have no initials after my name. So take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one. See you next week. Hey, happy Passover for those that are observing that, and happy Easter for all of you that observe that. Thank you. Bye.